In this video, we take a look at a very cool lighting feature in V-Ray called Lightmix. Using Lightmix, you can essentially relight your scene during or after the render without the need to re-render. So you can adjust the color and intensity of your lights in a real-time fashion and see the results immediately. It's a very cool and useful feature, so let's see how to set it up. Let me quickly run the IPR. In this particular scene, I have 6 lights, a key light that is placed to the left of the camera, a fill light on the right side, a fill light from above. We also have this floor lamp, this self-illuminated geometry on the wall, and if I press 8, there is an HDRI map in the environment. Later on, I'll be using a V-Ray dome light as the environment, but to show you all the features of Lightmix, I decided to use the environment map for now. Let's stop the IPR. To set up Lightmix, simply open up the Render Setup window. Go to the Render Elements tab. Click on this Add button and look for V-Ray Lightmix render element. Now press OK. If you come down to its parameters, you need to define the way you have organized your lights in your scene. So based on instance light, individual lights, groups, or layers, you can actually decide how Lightmix will interpret your lights. In this case, I have just simple individual lights, so let's choose individual lights. Now let's start the IPR again and wait for a cleaner render. Okay, so now the render is clean enough. Now you need to open up the layer panel, and if you click on the source layer and in the properties section, simply change the source from the RGB render to Lightmix. And this will give us the simple UI to control the color and intensity of our lights in real time. Really cool. First of all, let me click on this All button to turn all the lights off in the scene, and now we can take a look at each light contribution to the overall lighting and decide if we want to adjust the color and intensity of a specific light or not. Let me turn on the self-illumination layer first. And this layer contains any object with a self-illuminated material applied to it, either a V-Ray light material or a default V-Ray material with self-illumination enabled. Let's turn on the environment light, and this is the lighting from the HDRI image that was assigned to the environment. We can turn on our floor lamp and these 2 fill lights as well from right and above, and finally our key light from the left. A quick tip: to solo a specific light, you can alt click on it. Let's solo our key light, for example. The above fill light, the left fill light, the floor lamp, the environment, and self-illumination. Now we can click on this all button and turn them all on again. Each light has an intensity and a color adjustment. Let's take the key light and decrease its intensity by half. So let's set its intensity to 0.5, and that's it. Very cool. Or I can click on this color swatch and change its color from white to any other color. Maybe purple, red, pink, blue. Or maybe we want to just slightly make it a bit warmer. Maybe I can increase its intensity or completely turn it off. And in real time, you can see the adjustments without having to re-render each time you change anything. So a quick tip: when you're actually planning to use the Lightmix or relight your scene in post, a good practice is to always use white neutral light colors, because you can actually tint white to be any other color, but it would be hard to turn, for example, a bright yellow orange color to a blue color, right? So if you plan properly and make sure all your lights have a very neutral white color, you can simply change that color to any other color. Okay, let's see. I can take this fill light from the right side and maybe increase its intensity to get a bit more fill light and brighten those shadows a tad. Cool. In this case, let me set it back to 1. I can turn off this floor lamp completely or increase its intensity maybe 3 times. Basically, this value is a multiplier. So whatever the intensity of your light in your scene is, you basically multiply it by the defined value here. I can turn off the two fill lights. So as you can see, it's a very, very useful feature. So at this point, let me stop the IPR. Let's say you are done with your Lightmix. You can go ahead and save out your render like any other render. You have a few options up here as well. You can save a Lightmix preset. To do that, click on this save button. Name your preset whatever you want, as long as you can remember it later on. And click on this save button. Now I can reset all the values to their default and click on this load button to load that saved preset. And this menu on the right side will show you a list of the latest presets, and you can hover over them and see a preview of each one before choosing them. We also have these to scene and to composite options as well. So to scene applies the current Virial Lightmix changes to the scene. Basically, it sends all changes to colors and intensities back to the colors and intensities of the scene lights. If you want to have a bit more control over each light, you can use this to composite option. Before that, let's reset all the changes and then click on this to composite button. Now the source up here is changed to composite. Now we have access to all the lights as individual layers. If I select the key light again, I can still change its intensity or color, but now I can add any color correction adjustments as well. For example, we can add a hue saturation adjustment and increase the overall saturation of this particular light contribution. So that's about Lightmix. The cool thing is, if you take a look at the render elements dropdown on the upper left corner, you notice you have access to all the individual light contributions as render elements, and you can explore them here. And that simply means you can also composite these layers back together in any compositing application and relight your scene in post as well using Photoshop, After Effects, Fusion, Nuke, or any other post-processing tool. We talk about that in the rendering section of the course when we talk about render elements and compositing in Fusion or After Effects. So Lightmix is really helpful for look dev purposes, and I'm glad Viri has such an amazing feature. For the final render, I'm going to turn on the environment dome light that has the same HDRI map as our environment. I can press 8 and remove the environment map. You don't have to, as the dome light overrides the environment map automatically. In the render settings, the min shading rate is set to 24 and noise threshold is set to 0.005. I'm going to add a Viri denoiser render element as well, and finally set the resolution to 1920 to 1080. Now we can start our final render. Now before that, I'm also going to hide this self-illuminated geometry, as it does not help the overall composition and takes away from the empty space above the sofa. Now we can go ahead and start the final render, but I'm just going to show you the final render from the history panel. Nice, looks good. See you in the next video.